Hi, I thought it'd be nice to do a current rundown of the knives that I'm carrying from time to time. This is pretty much it. This is my collection of folding pocket knives. So enjoy. I'll go over them one by one. I'll try and keep it quick, and then I'll do a few rankings at the end. Cheers! It's Leatherman Skeletal CX. I know it's a bit of a multi-tool as well, but I do carry this as a main everyday carry blade fairly often. It's probably my oldest tool out of all these, and still one of my favourites. The blade is 154 cm steel. It's a stainless steel handle with little bits of carbon fibre in there that doesn't really make much difference. It's also got a pair of pliers and a screwdriver as well, which in my case is a Torx wrench. Really good for on-the-go knife maintenance. Leatherman Skeletal CX. Cold steel American Lawman. Really good larger size knife. In my mind, 3.5 inches is a larger size knife. Anything else just doesn't feel pocketable to me. This is about as big as I want a knife when it's riding in my pocket. Best thing about this knife though is that although it is quite wide when it's folded up, as in from this point to this point, it doesn't really take much in terms of thickness. It's actually quite a thin knife. It's got G10 handles, which is just about the perfect amount of texturing, I think, for G10, which in combination with the cold steel pocket clip, often the G10 is a disaster because it's just too coarse. This is just about right, so really happy with this. The blade steel is CTS XHP. What I really like about this is the forward finger choil, the varying grips. You can even choke all the way back here. That swoop there is enough for a 3-fingered grip, a 4-fingered grip, or a full-on choke-up grip. Really good knife. Has the axis lock, which does reduce the speed of the knife a little bit. I'm yet to be able to flick it open without a bit of a wrist action. Really good knife overall though. Probably one of the better blade shapes you can get as well. Because it's quite tall, even though it's rather thick, the tallness makes it a really good slicer as well. Cold steel American Lawman, CTS XHP. Spyderco Native 5, CPM 110V, the lightweight model, which means nothing in the liners there. FRN handles, a bit like the Spyderco Delica, and it does have that pattern of grippiness when you push this way and this way, sort of all coming out of the centre point here. See that there? Really like the blue handles. It's a bit more of a blocky handle than the Delica, but certainly not uncomfortable by any stretch. A little bit to get used to though, but if it fits your hand, it'll fit your hand very well. I can see if your hands were a little bit larger than mine, so if you had the extra large hands, you might find yourself a little bit cramped, but as it stands, I'm a real sucker for these forward finger choils on my everyday carry knives. Really get into your cardboard cutting like that. Feel like you've got a little bit more control. The blade's just on 3 inches. It's the cutting edge is a little bit less, obviously, you can see there. The CPM 110V steel, really impressive. Still not needed to be really stropped or sharpened or anything, so really good steel. Pocket clip carries quite well. Wouldn't mind a bit more deep carry, it does stick out about that much. Overall, fairly thin but very light knife. The Spyderco Native 5, CPM 110V, lightweight. It's Benchmade 940. S30V steel with the green anodized aluminium handles and the purple titanium backspacer. Axis lock, so ridiculously fun. Love that blade shape. I get a real great deal of mileage with this tip, and just this, I probably use this bit of the knife more than anything else, just for real little precise cuts. Although it's thick, you have a lot of control still, and it's sort of a confidence-inspiring thickness, so you don't really mind sticking at places where you perhaps might hesitate with your Native 5 or your sort of thinner knife blade sort of thing. Really good, heavy-duty sort of utility knife. I like the length, and what I love most is the thickness in the pocket. It's really narrow. You carry it downwards like this. Again, wouldn't mind a deep carry clip. I might look into getting one from Benchmade, but that's quite a narrow package when you compare it to the American Lawman in the pocket. Really can fit at more places and next to more things. S30V steel. So still a good steel. Still very much a leading steel. Kind of becoming what 440C was in the 90s. Just your basic good knives have S30V in them now, and it's Still, no, it's still years away from being obsolete, definitely. I mean, it's just still a custom made, like a steel made for the cutlery industry, so. Holds great steep edges. One thing I did notice on my Benchmade, the bevels are really steep. You can see how long that bevel is, but because of the S30V, it can actually stand quite a bit of stress even on a fairly steep edge. That's one of the qualities of this steel. So, very, very cool pocket knife. Probably my favourite, just in terms of looks and the complete package. Volkniven U2. See this heaps. I bust this out as much as I can. Easily my favourite traditional style knife. I like it because it's still got an air of modernness. The thing that's traditional I always get hung up on is that they're usually made of really soft stainless steel like Case and those sorts of 440C, just things like that. Case, Queen Cutlery, Canal Street, they all sort of use the lower end steels. I know you can get 154 CPM, or CPM 154, that sort of stuff, but really this is much more affordable than any of those knives will be, and the steel is, in my opinion, better. So this is a $100 traditional knife. Yeah, it's got a plastic handle, it's not bone or anything like that, but it's a solid lock back, and it's got the super gold powder steel in there, so very, very good. Very, very hard wearing steel I found, even though it does have quite the high Rockwell. The edge is still held up really, really well, and it is still very, very sharp. And again, most of these knives, they really only need a strop before, as long as you aren't really lax in their maintenance, then they need a strop to bring back to life anyway, which is where your bit of old belt super glued to a bit of wood would come in handy. It's the Volkniven U2. Sexy lamination line just there, fantastic stuff. That is the blade of the Kaiser V3 Vanguard. This is a bit less of a common knife. It's a bit more obscure, probably a bit newer still. Kaiser are a high-end Chinese cutlery manufacturer, so yes, that is a thing. You get the Chinese knife manufacturers that aren't just OEMs for other manufacturers. Kaiser make knives in their own right, and they make some very good knives, and they've actually started really pairing up with some pretty good designers. I think the one that won last year really was that Rayla Koniko Gemini, which was a flipper knife, S35 VN steel titanium handle. This is from their slightly down market range, and by slightly I still mean that they're all made of G10 and VG10, so they're not using junk materials by any stretch, but you pay $70 for this knife in Australia, which is, I think, really, really good for a VG10 blade of this length. Just think Spyderco will charge you $110 for the same pleasure, and it's just buttery smooth. Such a smooth. This is as smooth or smoother than the Rat 1. It's probably smoother than the Rat 1 because it doesn't have that crazy detent. The Rat 1's fastness, and the Rat 2's fastness is done through a strong detent. This one just launches because it is so smooth. Really nice phosphor bronze washes there, just keeping it fantastically smooth. Very, very plain looking knife, which I really don't mind. It's almost, generic looking, but I think if you look closer, you see some nice detail on that G10 handle. You see the transitions there, and the blade's just got a classic shape. I mean, it's not every knife has to be an artistic, world-beating piece. It's comfortable. It does the work well, and it's a good old liner lock. So just nice and simple. Yeah, Kaiser Vanguard. Certainly not going anywhere. Good pocket clip as well. Only a little bit left pointing out, which is fine. It's a little bit of a thicker knife for its size, but and by thicker I mean it's about as thick as the Benchmade, but usually the thinner knives or the shorter knives are a little bit thinner than this. But certainly no criticism at all. It's the Kaiser Vanguard V3. The newest and rationally probably the best of this bunch, I would say, for pure everyday carry, is this Benchmade Griptilian 556-1. This is the updated version. They've put G10 in the handles, which is a lot better than the FRN. There used to be this sort of material in the handle of the Benchmade Griptilian, still in the same pattern, but it was a little bit cheap feeling. G10 has a much more sort of solid feel to it, and it's a little bit more, probably a little bit more weight, not a huge amount, but it just feels a bit less, well, it just feels less plasticky. I know it's still a type of plastic, it's still just laminated fiberglass, but very, very, very much more solid looking. If you have it in hand, if you hold the two knives in hand next to each other, you really do feel a difference. Nice open pillar construction there. The blue lining obviously giving it this little bit of pop kind of thing. But the real win is this new blade steel. This is CPM 20CV, and it's a version of M390, which is could be the current world beater steel, perhaps in conjunction with some of the high-end CPM S steels, so S90, S110. Really good versatile steel. I think I said in my review of this, I've put it up accidentally against other steels, against like a metal fixing to which was holding something to a pallet. Really just brought the edge back, you know, with just this strop. So just a little bit of that, and this steel just came straight back to life, and it's just remaining. I've been carrying this a lot because I really like the knife. Stayed hair shaving sharp as well, so really good quality, high value knife, because it's $240, but you get a lot for that. You get probably the best blade steel, one of the most comfortable handles, and if your hand's a bit larger than mine, just get the full size Griptilian, and really good comfy handle. Nice deep carry pocket clip as well. That's an upgrade. The previous one had this pocket clip here, the standard Griptilian. So yeah, this is a real win. Axis lock again, nice and smooth. Fun to play with. It's just got everything going for it. It looks good. It's got a great steel. It's got a deep carry clip. It's fun to play with. It's a well-made knife. Came razor sharp from the factory. Probably the best one I've got. Not my favourite. This is probably my favourite. Not the toughest. This is probably the toughest. Maybe this would have the best steel. I don't know, but certainly very good. I'll do some rankings now. Let's have a look. So this is the knife sorted by steel quality, in my opinion. So this gap here is intentional because there is a little bit of a jump between these two knives and the rest of the knives in terms of edge retention. These are still very good steels for the money. VG10 and 154 cm. You get a lot more mileage out of them than your standard 8CR, Oz 8, 400 series steels, but still very much there's a large difference between these standard steels and then the powdered steels. So that's just to symbolise that. But then you're just moving on through the S30V. It's been around for a long time, starting to show its age a bit, but still very relevant. Super Gold powder steel and CTS XHP seem to be holding on about as well as each other. This is probably slightly tougher steel. This one does tend to chip a little tiny bit, but they're nothing that, as I said, you can't bring back on a strop. This has kind of got that, they say it's D2, but easier to sharpen, and it's probably a pretty good, and more stainless, probably a pretty good descriptor of it really. And then S110V and M390, this probably is staying sharper for longer, but much harder to bring back than this steel here, as I've already shown. So I haven't really needed to sharpen this one, but when I have tried to put the factory super shaving sharp edge back on it, been a bit more tricky than this one here, which sort of took it really well and holds it really well as well. So might not hold it as long as this one, but I think definitely being able to get the edge back with relative ease makes it probably edge out just a little bit. You know, if it's an extra day or so of sharpness to get this one, but an extra couple of hours on the table to get this one perfect again, I think I'd still go with this one here. This is them sorted by weight, so weight of the entire knife. As you can see, quite obviously the Leatherman's got a full set of pliers in it, so it's going to be the heaviest one. Very slight differences between these four here, but then these two are quite a bit lighter in hand, just because of the empty plastic type handles. Got liners, aluminium handle, larger blade, quite large blade, full lockback system, so that's probably what does it there. This is them sorted by cutting edge, so not blade length. This one would probably, the blade, sure, the metal exposed part starts a lot earlier, about almost an inch earlier, but then the cutting edge, because the finger choil starts. So all the cutting edges are lined up pretty much along this axis here, and then they'll shoot out from there. So lots of sort of 3-inchy area here, 3.5, a little bit more than 3.5 perhaps, in terms of total blade length. So, and then just a little utility blade on the Leatherman there last. And this is a knife sorted from this end to this end of my least to my most favourite. I think all of these knives are staying in the collection, but yeah, just if I was to rank them one by one, I've just done a bit of a Benchmade high at the moment. I can't see this ever being budged. Same with this, really. Really murky ground here with these three. I sort of like all these in different levels. This native, just, yeah, I would probably, to be truly honest, I'd probably get a Delica in HAP 40. If I was going to do it again. I'm not going to do it again, but I think the Delica was just a little bit more comfy. So there we go. But I do like the high quality steel. And the Kaiser, really, really good, surprising little knife. It's just a little bit bland, just in terms of appearance. I think it looks good, but it's handsome, but just not there in terms of completely eye-catching, and just I often see myself looking past it when I'm choosing my knife when I'm setting out for the day. So that's my knife collection. Do you like it? I've got others. I've got Swiss Army knives, I've got open L knives, things like that, but I really don't carry them, so that's why I'm not putting them on the table today. So yeah, next I was hoping to get a funny story. Well, not a funny story, a sad story. I was hoping to get a bit of my work's got like a back pay thing going on, and the word is everyone's excitedly talking. It's from they're supposed to have paid us ages ago, this agreed thing. Anyway, I was due for a reasonable lump sum in my next pay packet, and as always, so I was making all these grand plans. I'm going to get a Spyderco Mantra, I'm going to get a zero tolerance 0450, something cool. I wanted a cool flipper knife, so I was really looking forward to Wednesday morning when my pay would go in, and I all excited, checked it out, opened it up. It's like nowhere near as much. The taxman took most of it, as he does. So taxman took most of my little bonus there. So I wanted a flipper knife. The one I could afford was the Kershaw Chill. So there'll be a review of that coming up in the next little while. It's a good knife, but it's not a Mantra and it's not a zero tolerance. It's probably not even a Skyline really, so. But hey, I gotta get something, gotta keep these reviews going, otherwise you guys will lose interest and go and watch, like, I don't know, someone else. So yeah, Kershaw Chill review coming soon. Cool little, very elegant, slender flipper knife. Kind of reminds me a little bit of this, with cheap steel and being a flipper with a G10 handle, but my point is it's a long slender blade that's not particularly good at slicing but reasonable at cutting, if that makes sense. I'll go into that more when I have it on the table. So there we go. Look forward to that, dudes. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.